Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel, thank you. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Battle Through the Heavens based on novel. So let's start. Damn it, if this fellow dares to hurt Xiao Yan, the old me will not let him off easily even if I have to risk this life of mine. Lin Yang viciously clenched his teeth. A fierce glint also flashed across his eyes. He was a person who greatly valued friendship, and he had a deep relationship with Xiao Yan. If anything were to happen to him, he would definitely not just sit idly by the side. Wang Chen looked at Xiao Yang, who was slowly walking over, with a pair of dark eyes. Xiao Yang finally stopped not far in front of him. The daggers in Wang Chen's hands were swiftly rotated before he clenched their hilts. The daggers obediently paused in his hands. If you admit defeat now and kowtow 3 times, I can allow you to get lost from Lightning Mountain. Wang Chen glanced at Xiao Yang and laughed in a dense voice. Xiao Yang merely smiled in the face of the sinister Wang Chen. He clenched his fist, and Do Qi immediately surged of his body. It swiftly gathered in his palm, and a jade-green energy ruler was formed. The heavy Xian ruler was overly conspicuous. If he were to take it out here, he would be immediately recognized. On the other hand, this large ruler formed by energy appeared blurry, and it also looked like a broadsword. The sinister smile on Wang Chen's face involuntarily became denser when he saw that Xiao Yang had ignored his words. The killing intent within his eyes swiftly rose. Brat. I will let you regret offending the Yellow Spring Pavilion. The sinister voice had just sounded when Wang Chen's body trembled. He transformed into a black rainbow. Within a breath's time, he had appeared behind Xiao Yang's back. The daggers in his hands moved in a lightning-like manner. They pierced 2 fatal spots, the neck and the back of his heart. Clang. Clang. Wang Chen might be fast, but the daggers had yet to land on Xiao Yang's body when the jade-green energy ruler emitted a shua sound. It appeared behind his back. After which, he easily blocked the dagger attack. Wang Chen's face did not display any changes after his first attack proved futile. Black-colored Do Qi, that contained a dense chillness, lingered over his dagger like poisonous snakes. They transformed into 2 enormous black pythons that bypassed the large energy ruler and violently pierced towards Xiao Yang's head. Bang! Bang! The large energy python had just charged out when a fist made of wind, carrying a deep sonic boom, landed on them, shattering them in the process. After shattering the large energy pythons, the energy ruler in Xiao Yang's hand emitted a shua sound. It carried a sonic boom as it was violently fanned. The powerful wind forced Wang Chen back. You are only SOSO. Xiao Yang's face revealed a smile as he supported the heavy ruler on his shoulders. However, his calm voice only caused Wang Chen's eyes to become fiercer. It is only a warm-up. There is no need to speak so arrogantly. Wang Chen's bright red tongue licked a dagger. Dark black ink-like Do Qi surged out of his body as though an enormous ink pillar had shot toward the sky. The strength of this Do Qi exceeded that of an ordinary person at the peak of the Do Huang class. At this moment, just the aura of Wang Chen could already be considered a quasi-elite Do Zone. Although there was still an enormous gap to a genuine elite Do Zone, it was ultimately much stronger than some experts at the peak of the Do Huang class. Numerous exclamations were emitted from outside the arena as they sensed Wang Chen's powerful aura. Some contained envy. The current Wang Chen had already taken half a step into the Do Zone class. Half of the enormous gap between the Do Huang and Do Zone was already crossed by Wang Chen. The remaining half was only a matter of time. The faces of Feng Qing'er, Mu Qingwan, and Tang Ying in the arena did not reveal any surprise. All of them had soaked in the Heaven Mountain blood pool, and knew that they had gained a great deal of benefits from it. It was within expectations that this Wang Chen had also taken half a step into the Do Zone class, quasi-Do Zone. Xiao Yang muttered. He narrowed his eyes as his gaze looked at the powerful Do Qi that lingered around Wang Chen like a whirlwind. When he had exchanged blows with this person in the Heavenai Mountain range, he had clearly been at the peak of the Do Huang class. It was likely that the help of the Heaven Mountain blood pool had allowed him to gain such a breakthrough. The current you has already lost your final chance to show regret. The black glow that came from all directions poured into the ruler's web as a clear sound continued to erupt. Each time a clear sound appeared, an enormous energy ripple would swiftly surge out, forming numerous spider web-like cracks on the hard silver wood arena. Exclamations were immediately emitted from all around as everyone watched the dazzling exchange in the battleground. No one expected that Xiao Yan would be able to fight evenly with Wang Chen when he had unleashed his Do Qi to its peak. At this moment, anyone, regardless of how foolish they were, could tell that Xiao Yan's choice of agreeing to the fight was not some reckless act. Instead, he truly possessed the ability and qualification to fight with the other party. In the VIP seats, the smile on Huang Quanzunja's face was reduced. In the end, it had completely transformed into a gloomy expression. From his senses, Xiao Yan's strength was continuously climbing. Within a short breath's time, it had approached Wang Chen. Moreover, it was still climbing. Feng Zunja, Lei Zunja, Jian Zunja, and the others gradually revealed surprise on their faces. All of them immediately fell deep into thought. This person had indeed hid his actual strength. If this was the case, it seemed the one in trouble was going to be Wang Chen. A slight arc involuntarily curled on the faces of Feng Zunja and Jian Zunja when they thought of this. While these two were gloating, unexpected changes continued to appear in the arena. One could see the ruler shadows that had been wrapping around Xiao Yang's body, suddenly disappearing. A powerful aura that was far stronger than that of Wang Chen immediately appeared, just like a mountain peak that rose from the plains, surging to the sky as it did so. The majestic Do Qi easily broke through the blade web formed by Wang Chen's dagger. With a flash of the ruler, an unusual flame swiftly gathered at the tip of the ruler, six-joint body flowing ruler, six-joint fire. However, Xiao Yang of the past could at the very most use the splitting fire due to the limitations of his ability. He would have to strain himself if he used the body flowing fire. The six-joint fire was even more distant. However, his breakthrough to the Do Zone class this time around had allowed all of his abilities to leap forward overnight. He had also strode to the six-joint fire level of this six-joint body flowing ruler. This was one of the various benefits that advancing to the Do Zone class had brought about. Do Zone and Do Huang were two completely different levels. Unless someone at the peak of the Do Huang class possessed some truly strong trump cards, when attempting to leap across classes to challenge an elite Do Zone, one's ending would definitely be extremely miserable. After all, the gap between the two was too great. This was also the first time that Xiao Yang had used the six-joint fire of the six-joint body-flowing ruler ever since Xiao Yang had broken through to the Do Zone class. Although he had difficulty predicting its strength, he knew that it would definitely be stronger than if he used all his strength to unleash the flame-splitting tsunami. A strange flame that appeared greenish-brown gently adhered to the surface of the ruler. This flame was not a real flame. Instead, it was a strange flame that had appeared when the Do Qi within Xiao Yang's body was compressed to a point that was difficult to imagine. Of course, this could not be strictly considered a flame. At the very most, it could be considered an alternative of compressed Do Qi. It was fortunate that he had already reached the Do Zone class. Otherwise, with his previous strength of a Do Huang, it would definitely be impossible for him to compress Do Qi to such an extent. The greenish-brown flame adhered to the tip of the ruler, appearing as though it would scatter with one blow. However, it was this inconspicuous flame that tore a finger-wide black line in the air like an incomparably sharp blade when it was swung with the ruler's wind. There was no sonic boom or other unusual phenomenon when the ruler was swung out. Only a kind of dead silence like that prior to the eruption of a volcano. However, it was this gentle swing of the ruler that caused the expressions of everyone present, who possessed some knowledge, to change. Tang Ying, Mu Qingluan, and even Feng Qing revealed a solemnness in their eyes. Disbelief and shock filled their eyes as they looked at Xiao Yang. This fellow is actually an elite Do Zone. Although Xiao Yang had changed his appearance slightly, he still appeared quite young. Hence, when Tang Ying and the others saw that the aura spreading out from his body had actually reached the Do Zone class, a great storm had appeared in his heart. It did not calm down even after a long time. This person, Feng Qing's eyebrows were knit. Her pretty eyes stared intently at Xiao Yang. When his aura had completely erupted earlier, the strange familiar feeling that she had sensed earlier had become much denser. She was clearly aware that this kind of unknown feeling would not randomly appear. Moreover, her perception was also much stronger than an ordinary person. Of course, compared with Tang Ying's group, the ones who felt most stunned by this were the sea of people in the stadium. From the start, no one held much confidence in Xiao Yang being the victor. Now, however, the aura that erupted like a volcano from Xiao Yang's body had truly exceeded that of Wang Chen. Wang Chen was a quasi-Do Zone. Just what level was Xiao Yang, who had exceeded him at? There were only two words that answered that question: Do Zone. By having lost the quasi-word in front, the gap between them was just like the heaven and earth. This fellow has actually reached the Do Zone class. Lin Yang at the edge of the arena was also staring at Xiao Yang's back with a stunned look. When he had left the Jioma Empire back then, he clearly remembered that Xiao Yang was merely at the peak of the Do Wang class. Now, however, he had actually leaped to a Do Zone existence after only a few short years. Was this kind of training speed not a little too frightening? How is this possible? How can this brat be a Do Zone? Wang Chen grit his teeth. He inhaled a deep breath of air as his eyes swiftly turned crimson. A craziness surged out of his heart. He clearly knew just what kind of punishment would await him once he returned should he be defeated in Xiao Yang's hands. The moment he thought of this, the madness within Wang Chen's heart thickened. In the end, a beast-like roar was emitted from his throat. Following the emission of this roar, the small blood vessels on Wang Chen's skin suddenly burst apart. In an instant, he was covered in blood, yellow spring blood skill. Under Wang Chen's crazy roar, his aura rose wildly like a fire arrow within an instant. Following the increase in strength of his aura, both of his eyes turned dark black in color. Dark black energy surged out of his body in all directions, spread out. Looking from a distance, he appeared just like a ferocious ancient beast, emitting a savage fierceness. Tang Ying's group involuntarily inhaled a breath of cold air when they saw Wang Chen's appearance. This fellow has even used the yellow spring blood skill, what a lunatic. Dark black energy lingered over Wang Chen's body. His majestic strength caused even space to ripple. A fierceness flashed across his eyes as he abruptly clenched his fist. Dark black energy agglomerated in a lightning-like manner. The dark black energy swiftly agglomerated as a dense corpse stench spread from Wang Chen's right hand. Immediately, his entire arm turned as black as ink, yellow spring rotten corpse arm. The dark black arm suddenly shot out with a low roar. A crack was formed in the air when the black arm struck out. The tough silver wood arena seemed to have met its nemesis as it swiftly lost its luster. Immediately, it was just like withered wood, turning yellowish and rotten. It is the yellow spring rotten corpse arm. That is the extremely powerful Do skill of the Yellow Spring Pavilion. Numerous astonished cries immediately sounded outside of the arena when everyone saw Wang Chen's black arm. Clearly, this Do skill was quite well known. The exclamations outside of the arena had just sounded when the falling ruler figure finally carried a wisp of greenish-brown flames abruptly fell. After which, it suddenly collided with a black arm. The corner of Xiao Yang's mouth was lifted into an icy arc the moment the collision occurred. A wisp of glazed lotus core flame was quietly channeled through the body of the ruler before finally being shot out. Bang! The sudden collision brought about a soul-stirring explosion. An incomparable energy ripple spread out from the point where the two made contact. It swept out like a storm, and the silver wood arena instantly ended up as a large pit. Arm-thick lines swiftly spread out like a spider web. Within the blink of an eye, they occupied half of the arena while wooden fragments flew everywhere. Silver-colored wooden fragments shot out at great speed like a storm. A silver light flickered when the sunlight shot over, causing it to appear extremely beautiful. This is... Wang Chen's eyes immediately shrank when he sensed this wisp of jade-green flame. The storm that was created from the silver wood slowly disappeared. Xiao Yang's figure slowly surfaced within it. His dense eyes glanced at Wang Chen, who still had a breath remaining. After which, he raised his head and looked at Huang Quanzunja, who had a frighteningly gloomy expression. Good, brat, you have really surprised this venerable self, Zunja. Huang Quanzunja slowly stood up. His voice revealed killing intent and fury that he was trying his best to suppress. Xiao Yang's eyes slightly narrowed. He cupped his hands to Huang Quanzunja and said, I have already fulfilled the agreement. Goodbye. Xiao Yang turned around and walked to the edge of the stadium after saying these words, cough, wait. Just when Xiao Yang had turned around and taken over a dozen steps, a coughing voice that contained a dense laugh was transmitted over. Xiao Yang paused his footsteps and turned his head. His eyes were chilly as he looked at Wang Chen, who was climbing up from the ground with much difficulty. Xiao Yang's voice was ice-cold as he said, Do you still wish to continue? Cough. Wang Chen spat out a mouthful of blood. The savage smile on his face appeared exceptionally frightening when mixed with the fresh blood. I really did not expect that you would have advanced to the Do Zone class within 3 short months. Looks like you gained the most from the Heaven Mountain blood pool, don't you agree, Xiao Yang? This fellow is actually Xiao Yang. Is he crazy? Tang Ying opened his mouth. His cold face revealed a stunned expression when he looked at Xiao Yang. This fool, he has really come. Mu Qingluan's pretty face was filled with shock. She had never expected that this fellow would dare to come to this lightning mountain. It is actually him, no wonder, unexpectedly, his courage has reached such an extent. Looks like he really does not hold any regard for my wind lightning pavilion. Feng Qing's pretty eyes looked at Xiao Yang as the corner of her lips was slowly lifted into a slight arc. A faint chillness and arrogance was present in it. She had always truly hoped to have an exchange with him. She would restore the reputation of the wind lightning pavilion through it. Unfortunately, she lacked the opportunity to do so last time. Lei Zunja and the others in the VIP seats were stunned as they looked at the noise over the entire place. A moment later, they had finally recovered. A smile on their face was also slowly withdrawn as they stared at Xiao Yang in the arena with expressionless faces. Lei Zunja's finger gently tapped on the armrest. The slight sound gave off an extremely pressurizing feeling to it. Lei Zunja had also heard of Xiao Yang's name. Relying on one's strength to turn the wind lightning northern pavilion into such a miserable state was not something that an ordinary person could achieve. Fei Qian, is he that Xiao Yang? Lei Zunja's eyes revealed a lightning glow vaguely flickering as he turned his head to Fei Qian by the side and indifferently asked. The dense-looking Huang Quan Zunja gloatingly laughed in his heart as he clearly sensed the anger that was hidden in Lei Zunja's voice. He shrank his body back. It was unexpected that this fellow was the Xiao Yang who had caused an uproar recently. Thus, the matter today would be a little fun. Feng Zunja and Jian Zunja by the sides were similarly startled because of this. Their gazes were a little strange as they observed Xiao Yang. However, they did not say anything. This was a problem of the wind lightning pavilion, and it was inappropriate for them to say anything. The silver-robed Fei Qian hurriedly got up when he heard Lei Zunja's words. At this moment, his face had become slightly ugly. He had already been scolded by Lei Zunja more than once over the matter with Xiao Yang. Moreover, he had also suffered the ridicule of those two others beside him. It was unexpected that the matter, that had been temporarily put aside today, was brought up again. Xiao Yang's eyes were cold as they swept over Wang Chen, who was smiling in a savage manner. Immediately, a body hurried over. Lin Yang held a long spear in his hand and appeared beside Xiao Yang with a solemn face. Finally he asked in a deep voice, "Do you want to charge out?" Xiao Yang slightly shook his head. Given the strength of the two of them, it was likely that their chances of successfully escaping were very low if they forcefully tried to break out. "Just leave it to me." Xiao Yang waved his hand and slowly raised his head. He immediately laughed in a cold voice as his hand grabbed his face. An item made of skin fell from it, revealing Xiao Yang's original face. Since he was already unable to hide, there was naturally no need to conceal his face any longer. "Why? Pavilion Chief Fei Qian, are you planning on attacking me again today?" Fei Qian's face turned dark and cold when he saw Xiao Yang's face, that had been deeply imprinted in his memory. His throat emitted a furious laugh as his body moved. A thunder resounded over the place and his figure suddenly disappeared. Xiao Yang's expression changed when he saw Fei Qian's body disappear. He sent Lin Yang back with palm as lightning glow flickered on his feet. His body slightly shook. Xiao Yang's body had just trembled when Fei Qian appeared behind him in a ghost-like manner. His hand claw, which was covered by lightning, violently penetrated through Xiao Yang's chest. However, it was unfortunate that not the slightest amount of fresh blood appeared. Afterimage. Fei Qian's hand shook and the afterimage was shattered. He slowly turned around, and his eyes coldly landed Xiao Yang suspended in a spot a few dozen meters above the ground. He coldly laughed. "It has only been a couple of months since I last saw you, but your strength has improved. No wonder you are so arrogant. The Wind Lightning Pavilion is only SOSO. It specializes in the elders bullying the younger ones and using its numerical advantage to bully others." Xiao Yang's gaze was ice-cold as he stared at Fei Qian. A moment later, he suddenly let out a laugh. His eyes were raised as he looked at the expressionless Lei Zunja in the VIP seats. He mocked, "If Lei Zunja really feels that this little self has a great enmity with the Wind Lightning Pavilion, why don't you act personally? With your Dozun's strength, the little me will definitely be unable to survive one exchange from you. Why do you need to make it so troublesome?" Xiao Yang's words immediately stirred an uproar in the stadium. Quite a number of people wondered if Xiao Yang had knocked his head against something. He dared to provoke Lei Zunja at this time. However, some of the smarter individuals let out a quiet praise in their hearts after being stunned. What kind of status did Lei Zunja had? A elite Dozun, an existence that was like a giant in the Central Plains region. His status had a massive gap with Xiao Yan that was difficult to measure. This was the case regardless of whether it was in terms of reputation or ability. After Xiao Yang spoke those words, Lei Zunja would not dare to personally attack Xiao Yang today unless he wished to gain the reputation of bullying someone younger, just because he was older. In other words, these words of Xiao Yang had helped sever a truly dangerous roar. With his current strength, other than facing an elite Dozun, he would still have the ability to flee even against an expert like Fei Tian. This brat is really cunning. Jian Zunja softly laughed before glancing at Lei Zunja by the side, who remained expressionless. After Fei Tian had made up his mind within his heart, a majestic, frightening strength slowly woke from within his body. Under the traction of this frightening aura, the layers of clouds in the distant sky emitted a rumbling sound. Silver lightning flickered within them as thunder sounded. Xiao Yang's eyes sank when he saw this. He did not expect this old fellow to be willing to end up with a bad reputation by insisting on attacking him. Xiao Yang, run! Lin Yang hurriedly cried out from within the arena. Fei Tian's strength was really too frightening. Even though Xiao Yang had advanced to the Dozone class, the gap between Xiao Yang and him was really too difficult to measure. Xiao Yang basically had no chance of victory if the two battled. Xiao Yang slightly shook his head. This place was Lightning Mountain, the headquarters of the Wind Lightning Pavilion. It was easier said than done when it came to escaping. Only by taking a risky fight would he have a chance to live. Moreover, Xiao Yang's eyes lifted up as he looked into the distance. Finally, they paused on the green-robed Feng Zunja, who appeared extremely free and easy in the VIP seats. Was this person a trustworthy person like his teacher had mentioned? Xiao Yang would naturally not announce Yao Lao's name in public. Immediately, he inhaled a deep breath, cupped his hands together, and said in a deep voice, Feng Zunja, this little self wishes for you to see something. Feng Zunja was startled when he saw Xiao Yang suddenly speak to him. He immediately smiled and said, little fellow, this matter is between you and the Wind Lightning Pavilion, and it doesn't seem to be related to my venerable self, Dozun. Feng Zunja was not acquainted with Xiao Yang. Naturally, he would not offend the Wind Lighting Pavilion for Xiao Yang after having just met him for the first time. This was the case even if Feng Zunja was not afraid of the Wind Lightning Pavilion. The ancient voice softly lingered over the entire Lightning Mountain. There seemed to be a demonic strength within this voice. All the surroundings became completely still when it sounded. The expressions on the faces of a countless number of people froze at this moment. A gentle breeze blew past, carrying a completely comical dullness. No one knew just what exactly happened at this moment. However, the weight of Feng Zunja's words appeared exceptionally clear in this place. It was likely that hardly anyone in this Do-Chi continent dared to doubt the weight of an elite Dozun. At the edge of the arena, Mu Qingluan was similarly widening her small mouth as she looked to where Feng Zunja was sitting. Her heart was filled with shock. She had never seen the free and easy Feng Zunja reveal such a decisive emotion, despite having trained under him for so many years. She clearly understood what the words that Feng Zunja had uttered at this moment meant. If this matter was not resolved properly, they would likely become the enemies of the Wind Lightning Pavilion. Although the Falling Star Pavilion was not afraid of the Wind Lightning Pavilion, the implications of these two large factions going to war would really be a little terrifying. Despite such a serious consequence, Feng Zunja had spoken without hesitation, because of something that Xiao Yang had given him. At this moment, even her little head involuntarily felt a little jealous. She suddenly recalled the words that Xiao Yang had said to her back in the Heaven Eye Mountain range, a disciple of an old friend. Mu Qingluan's narrowed eyebrows became vertical, and she felt a little lost. Although Feng Zunja had many friends, their relationships were far from sufficient to reach the point where he did not hesitate to become enemies with the Wind Lightning Pavilion. Just who was this old friend? Mu Qingluan was not the only one who had such thoughts. Almost everyone present, with the exception of Xiao Yang, was somewhat lost and shocked. A quiet atmosphere covered the entire sky. Even the churning clouds in the sky had slowly quietened at this moment. This atmosphere continued for a while before Lei Zunja, on the VIP seats, finally recovered slowly. He turned his head and his eyes that contained a flicker of lightning locked onto Feng Zunja while demanding in a deep voice, Feng Zunja, what do you mean by this? It was likely that everyone could hear the little thread of anger contained in Lei Zunja's voice. Cuckoo, Feng Zunja, we can discuss this nicely. Jian Zunja was similarly stunned because of this. He had also not expected Feng Zunja to step forward. Moreover, he had stood out in a manner where there was no turning back. Huang Quan Zunja's eyes flickered. However, he did not speak. Instead, he was coldly laughing in his heart. Feng Zunja had shut his eyes in front of a countless number of gazes. He finally opened his eyes again. The emotions within were hidden deep inside his heart. Not a single word was spoken. Instead, his sight stared straight into the air where Xiao Yan was standing. His voice was hoarse. You and he, what is your relationship? By being able to let an elite dozan reveal such an emotional fluctuation, anyone could tell that the item Xiao Yang had tossed him earlier possessed an important meaning to him. Xiao Yang inhaled a deep breath of air as he looked at Feng Zunja's old face. All the emotional fluctuation from earlier indicated that Yao Lao's eyesight was very good. Xiao Yang stood straight in the air. He respectfully bowed and cupped his hands to Feng Zunja. His voice carried pride, teacher and disciple. Feng Zunja slightly nodded. His body moved and appeared in front of Xiao Yang. There was kindness in the gaze, which he used to look at Xiao Yang. He softly said, "This is the answer that I want to hear the most. However, you need to provide me with evidence." Xiao Yang smiled. He extended his hand and pointed to the fire seal on his forehead. After which, a tiny wisp of a dense white flame swiftly sprang onto the tip of his finger, bone-chilling flame. Feng Zunja's eyes were startled when he saw the tiny dense white flame. He was not unfamiliar with this flame. Back then, if this flame had not been there when he was in a critical state, it was likely that the current Feng Zunja would not. Feng Zunja was naturally aware of the transfer of a heavenly flame. Moreover, with his eyesight, he could vaguely sense an extremely faint, but familiar feeling that extended deep into his soul from the fire seal on Xiao Yang's forehead. Hence, he understood that this bone-chilling flame should be something that his old friend had voluntarily stored in Xiao Yang's body rather than something that he had taken through trickery. Moreover, all of this was strong evidence that could prove the relationship between Xiao Yang and Yao Lao. Feng Zunja slowly raised his head as he inhaled a breath of air. His voice was hoarse as he said, "Old fellow, you have made it difficult for me to find you all these years." Xiao Yang was quiet when he heard the little exultation and tiredness within Feng Zunja's voice. It seemed that this good friend, whom teacher had spoken of, had continuously searched for traces of him all these years. One had not lived in vain if one had such a good friend. Although teacher had been wrong about Han Feng back then, at the very least, he had chosen the right person as a good friend, Feng Zunja. Feng Zunja waved his hand and softly laughed, "You are his disciple. Please don't address me in this manner. The old me is called Feng Xian. I shall not speak of my relationship with him in detail. If you do not mind, you can also consider the old me as your teacher in the future." With Feng Zunja's status in the Central Plains, there was an incredible number of people who wanted to call him teacher. However, he had only accepted Mu Qingluan as his disciple after all these years. Moreover, this was due to the relationship he had with her clan. It was the first time that he had ever asked someone to call him teacher. The disciple of an old friend greets old Feng. Xiao Yang was also not a foolish person. He naturally understood as hurriedly greeted him in a respectful manner. Feng Zunja heartily laughed and nodded. He said, "Leave the matter today to me." Feng Zunja's expression was like that of a ripple as well. Forget about this. Even if Xiao Yang was an extremely evil person, he would definitely not allow Xiao Yang to suffer any harm today. There was no reason for this other than that he was the disciple of that old fellow. Lei Zunja's words are too arbitrary. The 3000 lightning movement is merely something that the little me came across outside of the Central Plains. Its origins are from abroad. How can you say that I secretly learned it? If that is the case, would that not mean that anyone who practices those skills would all be seeking their own death? The 3000 lightning illusionary body, on the other hand, has been taken back by the Northern Pavilion chief. I think that he should be aware of this. Xiao Yang spoke in a deep voice. Fei Qian's face slightly sank. His eyes stared viciously at Xiao Yang. However, he did not dare to randomly attack this time around. Feng Zunja was beside Xiao Yang. If he dared to attack, his ending would likely not be good. Fei Qian was still quite afraid of an expert like Feng Zunja. Lei Zunja was non-committal to Xiao Yang's words. Currently, the one who was most troublesome to deal with was Feng Zunja. If he wanted to protect Xiao Yang, it was likely that the matter today would turn into a stiff one. This was not something he was happy to see. Regardless of who the victor was in a war between two pavilions, they would both suffer great losses. At that time, it would only allow others to benefit from their fight. Lei Zunja's finger gently tapped on his armrest before finally sighing. He faintly said, "This matter is ultimately something that started between Xiao Yang and the Wind Lightning Pavilion. Why don't we do this? On account of Feng Zunja's face, this matter will be handed to Fei Qian. Regardless of who is the victor between them, this matter will come to an end. The both of us will not intervene in this matter. What do you say?" Feng Zunja's eyes were lowered when he heard this. He glanced at Fei Qian below before immediately shaking his head and laughing. There is too large a gap between Fei Qian's and Xiao Yang's seniority. Bullying the weak and the young is not a good reputation. Lei Zunja's face also sank after he was rejected by Feng Zunja. He said, "In that case, what does Feng Zunja want to do? Do you want my Wind Lightning Pavilion to do nothing and let Xiao Yang off? I will definitely not do such a thing. Cuckoo, let's all talk nicely. Why don't we do this? Fei Qian's seniority is indeed much greater than Xiao Yang's. It is not good to get him to fight. Why don't we get someone from the younger generation to do so?" Jian Zunja smiled and piped up when he saw that the atmosphere was not quite right. Does Jian Zunja mean to get Qing Er and Xiao Yang to fight? Lei Zunja narrowed his eyes. However, his gaze turned to Feng Qing Er in the arena. Jian Zunja grinned and nodded. His eyes looked at Feng Qing Er with a deeper meaning and said, "This little girl is also not an ordinary person. There is no need for Lei Zunja to conceal anything." Lei Zunja slightly frowned. He mused for a moment before immediately nodding. His eyes looked at Feng Zunja as he spoke in a deep voice. "Since Feng Zunja thinks that Fei Qian is too senior, I will get Qing Er to fight. If Xiao Yang is defeated, he must promise not to use the 3000 lightning movement in the future. If Qing Er loses, the grudge between Xiao Yang and the Wind Lightning Pavilion will be settled. What do you say?" Of course, the precondition to this exchange is the prohibition of using anyone else's spiritual strength. Lei Zunja glazed at Xiao Yang when he spoke until the end. It was likely that he was also aware that Xiao Yang possessed an exceptionally strong spiritual body on him. Feng Zunja hesitated for a moment when he heard this. He was similarly aware that Feng Qing Er was not an ordinary person. It was likely that even Qing Luan was no match for her among those of the same generation present. However, this situation was the limit the Wind Lightning Pavilion was willing to give in. If this failed, it was likely that there would not be anything left to discuss. While Feng Zunja was hesitating, Feng Qing Er at the edge of the arena gently shifted her feet as she entered the stage. Her pretty eyes turned to Xiao Yang. Her clear cool voice carried a haughtiness as it slowly sounded, "Wind Lightning Pavilion's Feng Qing Er. Xiao Yang, do you dare accept this challenge?" Xiao Yang's eyes immediately paused on Feng Qing Er's well-proportioned, voluminous body. He smiled. A haughtiness surged out of his heart. He was naturally aware of the difficult situation Feng Zunja was facing. Moreover, he was Yao Lao's disciple no matter how one put it. At the very least, he could not cause his teacher to lose face in front of this old friend. "I will accept your challenge." A loud clear laugh, filled with pride, sounded. Feng Zunja was slightly startled when he saw that Xiao Yang did not show any signs of being timid. An admiration that was difficult to detect flashed over his face. He did not know how Xiao Yang had been accepted as a disciple of Yao Zunja, who was extremely picky. However, at the very least, this courage was sufficient to get others to view him in a better light. With Feng Zunja's old, sharp eyes, he was naturally able to tell that Feng Qing Er was extremely strong. Although Xiao Yang had broken through to the Dozone class, it was difficult to tell just who would win this battle. Feng Zunja had also heard some of the rumors about some of the things that Xiao Yang had done. However, he had heard that this was because there was a powerful soul within his body. Lei Zunja had already taken the lead to prevent him from using it in this match. Thus, Xiao Yang's fighting strength would be significantly reduced. Feng Zunja swept his gaze over Xiao Yang. He could vaguely sense the existence of a powerful spiritual body. However, he was disappointed that this spiritual ripple was not something that belonged to Yao Lao. Be careful. If I guessed correctly, this woman's strength should have already advanced to the Dozone class, after having soaked in the Heaven Mountain blood pool. Moreover, along with the fighting strength of her avatar, her strength has far exceeded that of an ordinary Dozong. Feng Zunja turned his head and instructed him, "If you are no match for her, there is no need to clash with her. Feng Qing'er's talent is indeed top-notch among the younger generation I have met over these years. Even Qing Luan does experiences a gap with her. It is not embarrassing to lose to her." Xiao Yan was startled when he heard this. Immediately, he smiled and nodded. That Wang Chen was able to borrow the help of the Heaven Mountain blood pool to reach half a foot into the Dozong class. With Feng Qing as even more terrifying talent, it was not an impossible task to break through to the Dozong class in one go. However, the avatar that was mentioned from Feng Zunja's mouth caused him to feel a little surprised. Of course, Xiao Yang nodded on the surface. However, his body had quietly straightened a little. Feng Qing'er possessed her haughtiness, while Xiao Yang similarly possessed his pride. He had just met Feng Zunja. Although the other party was indeed doing his best to protect him, Xiao Yang himself needed to perform in a way that was worthy of being valued by others. Xiao Yang did not flaunt anything through such a performance. All he wanted was to get other people to acknowledge Yao Lao's eyesight. This was especially the case in front of Feng Zunja. Xiao Yang gently inhaled a breath of air. He clenched his hand, and an enormous dark black heavy Xian ruler flashed and appeared. Since his identity had been exposed, he was also able to use this heavy Xian ruler as he pleased. Xiao Yang's feet stepped through the empty air. He slowly walked down in front of the countless numbers of gazes. After which, his feet gently landed in the arena. He raised his eyes, looked at the colorfully clothed, haughty girl in front before using some strength to pick up the ruler's hilt. The surrounding atmosphere had gradually become tense following Xiao Yang landing in the arena. Anyone could sense the swords-drawn atmosphere within the stadium. Fei Qian was dull when he heard this. Immediately, he unwillingly grit his teeth. Feng Zunja's appearance had completely halted the Wind Lightning Pavilion's thoughts of killing Xiao Yang off. However, the blades are blind in this current exchange. It is unavoidable for one to be injured in battle. Even Feng Zunja cannot say anything. A sinister look flashed across Lei Zunja's eyes. He glanced at Feng Qing'er facing Xiao Yang in the arena while speaking in a low, deep voice. "What does chief mean?" Fei Qian was startled and immediately narrowed his eyes. "I have already instructed Qing that it is fine to use a powerful strike if she has the opportunity. Although that brat has advanced to the Dozong class, he is unable to obtain help from that mysterious spiritual body. He is likely no match for Qing'er. Moreover, injuries are commonplace in a fight." Lei Zunja slowly let on. Fei Qian slightly nodded. A sinister smile appeared on his face. Xiao Yang had caused him to lose a great amount of face. How could his reputation survive if this matter were put aside as though nothing had happened? Feng Qing'er raised her pretty eyes slightly in the arena where there was a swords-drawn atmosphere. She looked at Xiao Yang in front of her. The other party's aura was indeed much stronger than when he was at the Heaven Mountain blood pool. No wonder he was full of confidence when he came to the Lightning Mountain. "Although I do not know how you managed to get Feng Zunja to stand behind you, you are likely too naive if you think that you can rely on this to behave atrociously on the Lightning Mountain without fear." Feng Qing'er's voice was still that clear and sweet. She was just like a phoenix that emitted a noble aura, which was difficult to hide. Xiao Yang appeared as though he did not hear her words. His eyes calmly observed her. The majestic Do Qi within his body was like a snake waking up from hibernation, as it slowly circulated. Following the surge of his Do Qi, a powerful aura was quietly emitted, charging to the clouds. "Based on my knowledge of you, it seems that you are someone who can only rely on external strength to create a reputation for yourself." It was the case with that spiritual body, and now it is the same with Feng Zunja. In other words, this might perhaps be called using the strength of others to act in an arrogant manner. Part 1 end here.